so that the direction of the picture is in the script. Everything is in the script.
Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, depending on when you're watching this. My name is Matt. I am back for the Script Awards Los Angeles. I've been hosting and moderating a bunch of these roundtables. Always happy to be back because I'm a scriptwriter myself, and it's always interesting and a pleasure to talk to other scriptwriters, see what are the solutions, the ideas, the challenges we all have. It's the 28th roundtable we're having. It's really something that's become a tradition and something that's really interesting for scriptwriters. And without further ado, I'm going to have 5 very interesting people joining me for this roundtable. Here we go. Michelle, Karen, Jasmine, Carrie, and Beatrice. Let's start right away. Michelle, we're going to start with you. Where are you calling from? And give us a little bit of your background quickly.
I'm calling from Rainy, Oregon. Beaverton, Oregon, specifically, which is headquarters of Nike. No one ever knows that's what makes us unique here. Background, I'm mostly retired. I have an engineering degree and I worked in high tech my whole career and it paid well. So I got to retire by the time I was 50. And I've been writing novels and this is my first attempt at a screenplay. So it's been fun.
Don't say too much because I have questions about that. Okay.
All right, sure.
Karen, you're next. Again, you're not new to the Script Awards Los Angeles, but just give us a little bit about where you're calling from and a little bit of your background.
Sure. I'm calling from Boca Raton, Florida. We've lived here about 3 years. I'm really a Midwesterner through and through. Nebraska, then to Chicago. Nebraska will pop back up here as we get talking. Chicago and then down here. So total transplant. My background is I started in radio because, I'm from the 90s. And then from that, I ended up doing media promotions for Cirque du Soleil, North American touring shows. And then I became a mom. And while staying at home, I discovered, honestly, I wrote my first book at work. So that naughty, but I did. I even printed it on the computer at work. And then I started staying home and, just through the years, I just haven't really been able to let it go. It has its claws in me. And I always, it's kind of how I keep busy. So that's pretty much the gist of that. And here I am with you guys.
Thank you for that. Jasmine, where are you calling from and a little bit of your backstory?
Yeah, so I'm Jasmine. I'm originally from the Bay Area, but I'm now here in LA. And I actually started more as a visual artist in entertainment. I was an animator and an illustrator, and that kind of led towards storyboarding. I became a storyboard artist for Nickelodeon. I was working on a few productions. But that's also within the TV industry. That's where I was first introduced to writers and writers' rooms and screenwriting. And I was immediately very envious of everyone that was writing episodes. I was frantically reading everything I could that all these writers are writing. They gave me a lot of tips of this is where I learned to write. These are the few schools that I applied to. So I kind of just dived straight in and now I'm really starting to write.
Okay, welcome. Carrie, your turn. Tell us a little bit about you and where you're calling from.
Yes, good morning. Carrie, I'm calling from Los Angeles, California. A little bit about me. I'm originally from New York, but been out here for over now half my life. So, but New York is my home. But a little bit about me. I have been a screenwriter for many years, mostly as a hobby. Something I just kind of fell into, took a cinema class and just brought a couple of books and just started getting on the path of writing and been doing that for many years. It's been a hobby. I still work and all that other stuff, but I've always been writing, and So
again, don't say too much. We'll go back to that. You guys are almost stealing my questions already. I don't want you to do that. Beatrice, what about you? Where are you calling from, and a little bit of your story?
Hi, I'm Beatrice. I am calling from LA. I was born and raised in Shenzhen, China. Shenzhen is like a city right next to Hong Kong. Every time I have to borrow Hong Kong's name to explain where it is.
Yes.
Yeah, and I came to US for college. I was really lucky to go to film school. I went to undergrad at USC, and then I just graduated with my screenwriting MFA from American Film Institute. Yeah.
Okay. Staying with you, what's the pitch of your series, Hot Manga Girl?
Okay.
What's the story about?
Yeah. So Hot Manga Girl. So I went to international high school in Shenzhen, China. It's like kind of like a hyper strict high school that is designed for Chinese students to study abroad and try to go to like Ivy League and fancy school in the US. So, okay, another thing in the background, in China, porn is illegal. However, come on, high school, a teenager is a teenager, Chinese teenager are still teenager. We were horny and think about sex sometimes. So this inspired me to write Hot Manga Girl. Hot Manga Girl sat in this hyper strict international high school in Shenzhen, China. And so a very hyper straight-laced literature club teenager. Her name is Wendy, and she was desperate to cover her mom's comatose bills. And she got lured into a underground erotic manga business in the school that is started by the dean's manipulative daughter, Odette. So the series is centered about this two girls' relationship and how do they use Hot Manga Girl as like a manga to kind of rebel against the repressive nature of the school. Yeah.
I was about to ask why a series and not a script, but definitely with you explaining that, I could understand easily how this is going to span maybe 10 or 12 episodes, because going into that underground world, discovering a new thing, basically, that definitely could be a series, a good pitch. Okay, excellent. Thank you for that. Karen, what's your pitch? Karen, it's a stage play, Living in the Rough. So what's rough about that? Tell us.
Well, it's one set in a jewelry store. So there you have the title, Living in the Rough. I will tell you the play's roots go all the way back to me growing up in Nebraska in a small Air Force town called Bellevue, Nebraska. And my senior year of high school, I worked for a lawyer in the afternoons, and he was very committed to our soldiers coming back from Desert Storm. And representing them. A lot of times they came back to find divorce papers waiting for them. And then almost like clockwork, they'd be back in filing for bankruptcy. So while I was only 17 years old paying attention to this, I felt it was pivotal even in the moment. And it's always stayed with me. And then meanwhile, he had a son who was working in the office after graduation, college graduation, trying to figure out what he was going to do. And he was constantly getting yelled at for long lunches and things like this. So I was kind of experiencing these two different worlds, like in one spot. So when I had this idea to write this play, like that's always stayed with me. And I wanted to somehow incorporate that into something I was writing. So when I had this idea for this play, I decided, okay, this was a really great anchor for the play Living in the Rough, and I went ahead and made some notes. Otherwise, I'm going to end up hand gesturing the whole play through. So the actual pitch is Living in the Rough is about a TV reality star who has been publicly punished for something she didn't do, and then discovers in Nebraska, her grandfather has left her a jewelry store, grandfather she didn't know. For her mother has been in hiding for 30 years for a crime she didn't commit. It's a mystery, but it's really about who gets believed and who gets thrown away. I use double casting so that the same actors play the 1994 teenagers and their present day counterparts, their parents. The audience literally watches how power and disposability repeat across generations. I wrote it because I was interested in how women's stories get exploited and distorted by reality TV, by powerful families, by the public, and how silence protects the wrong people.
What made you decide on going for the stage play? What made that format in your mind work better than just a feature script, for example, or a book?
That's a great idea, because initially, actually, I had a TV. I was writing as a TV pilot is what I had in mind. But then I discovered with stage play, I tend to write, and this probably will not shock you if annoying me in these few moments. I tend to write from the nervous system versus like intellectually or having an outline or even probably using words properly. But I think that it comes across because in the intimate setting of a theater, we are connecting more through the nervous system, I think, than people realize. And so I feel like that's why this story with nervous system forward, feelings forward, it works this way. I think it would work another way as well, but maybe just not by me.
Something really rooted in the emotions of the characters and the way we receive these emotions as a reader or a spectator. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Excellent. Michelle, I'm going to move on to you. Michelle, you wrote The Release. What is it about? It's a feature script.
Yes. And if you don't mind, I'm going to do like the log line, the short version, and then dive into a little bit more detail because I'm trying to work this out for a 90-second pitch. So
go ahead. Test it on us. Go ahead. Use us.
Here's the log line. The promise of a joyous birthday celebration dissolves into a horrific nightmare, forcing a 50-year-old woman to make a torturous choice, accept the gift of a new life or sacrifice herself to save her daughters from the doom of the release. So that's the log line. In terms of the synopsis, so it starts at dawn on the 50th birthday, and Lily's world shatters basically when she discovers that what can happen in a society run by iron-fisted, corrupt old men. They're known as the elders. She barely escapes from them with her life. She flees into the forbidden zone where she stumbles into the arms of a man named Davu. He's a strange man, and because of his black skin and the lies she's been told her whole life, she initially believes he's a demon. Davu brings her to his land. It's an enlightened society of the Amani people where she finds her long-lost mother, and together they piece together the truth about what's been happening in her town. Basically, the fairy tale they've been told about the release their whole life is a cover-up for murder. Meanwhile, her relationship with Davu grows. They fall for each other. It makes it very hard for Lily to figure out what to do. And it's not until her friend Ben arrives, injured and hunted by the elders himself, and he is determined to return to speak the truth, that Lily commits to go back with him. But Ben dies along the way, which forces Lily to dig down deep and really find the power within herself to face off with the elders and to bring them down and to free her society from the murderous act of the release.
I remember when I read the pitch, I just glanced over your script. I'm not part of the selection process or anything. I'm just the moderator here. But I glanced over your script and it reminded me, and again, maybe I'm wrong because I didn't read it in full, okay? It reminded me about the Handmaid's Tale. Does that resonate with you?
Yes, it's sort of, here's the three things. Handmaid's Tale, basically because of the totalitarian regime and the oppression of women in this dystopian future. But Logan's Run, where you have this ticking clock and you have an end of a life, at a certain age, and it's been disguised as some kind of celebration, but really it's a lie. And then also right before I wrote this, I read the book, The Grace Year, which is kind of the same. It's this whole story about iron-fisted patriarchy, these strong men who are afraid of women's power. And on that end, it's like the teenage to adulthood transition. This is the transition from, when your fertility ends and your purpose as a woman ends from a man's perspective, you're dispensable. So those three are really what inspired me.
Makes sense. Makes total sense based on what you described as a story. Okay, thank you for that. Carrie, I'm gonna move on to you next. Carrie, you have a short script, Brother, Hold Your Light.
Yes.
That title to me, I'm gonna ask you that after. What is it about?
Yes. Brother Hold Your Light is a quiet short story about a homeless jazz musician who is frozen by grief and learns slowly connection again to the world through the unexpected bond of a young girl.
Okay. When I just read the title of the script, it reminded me of a Christian themed story. Maybe it's not. And listening to you, I can hear a sense of hope. I can hear humanity and people helping each other. Am I correct?
Yes, it's it is a message of hope. Especially, that's what I wanted to incorporate at the end of it. Everyone deals with grief and we all carry it differently. And so I wanted to write a story that, resonates with everyone. And just offer that message of hope, connection, in opposed to isolating ourselves and carrying this heavy weight around with no place to put it.
Okay. How many pages is your short script?
It is 18 pages.
18 pages. How do you, and I'm going to go back to you, Jasmine, after that. How do you, because 18 pages is quite a limited limited amount of pages to speak about such large themes. How did you sum it up? How did you make it concise and still keep the emotion? Because you seem to be catering to really wanting to talk about human emotions. How did you make it fit into only under 20 pages?
What was really carrying the script was the action.
Okay.
It's a minimal dialogue story. So everything is, visual on the page, everything we see, everything we hear, that. And so that is what carries the story on page. So, very, very important things are said. It's kept very minimal. So there's no fat on anything that's, in the script. Everything is very intentional of what's said.
Yeah. So it's intentional, it's on point. You're not going around the bush, you're going straight to what you want to talk about.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. Jasmine, you have nursing home. First time short script writer?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes.
What's your story? The story of the script.
So the main story is about a woman named Ava, and she's a newly appointed certified nursing assistant. This is heavily inspired, by the way, by my mom. She is an RN, and so is so many people in my family. I think that's kind of just like the Filipino sort of community. They always happen to be in the medical care system. So they were a huge part. I witnessed my mom, she go through nursing school in a very young age. And I even had a personal experience of going to work with her. So when she was working in a nursing home, there was a daycare. And when I was about 10 or 7, I stayed there for a period of my life, just witnessing what was happening in a nursing home. And I think there's this misconception that, for nursing homes, these are chronically ill elderly people. There's this grief and sadness and sort of a forgotten element to tied within what nursing homes are. But in actuality, I remember so many fond memories of just knowing that these residents, this is their home. And it almost felt like a home for me as well. Whenever it was someone's birthday, all the kids in the daycare would sing happy birthday to all the residents and visit them in their sick beds or see what they're doing for bingo. So it was really fun.
They're having fun.
Yeah, I really wanted to incorporate that lightness and humor while also centering it on this woman named Eva. And she's sort of this very try hard, straight laced, and cannot make any mistakes whatsoever, and encountering something that's so lively and chaotic in a way, that is in like a constant state of flux, working with human people. How do you learn how to care for someone in that way, in like caring for them in all their humanness? So yeah, that's kind of where this came from.
Okay, thank you for that. Beatrice, coming back to you, you mentioned something I wanted to go back on. You went to a school in Shenzhen where phones were banned and dating was forbidden. So you drew from that experience to write the script. You still live there or not?
Oh no, I'm currently living in LA.
Okay, so how do you look at that period of time, and how was it to write based on your experience, but from the outside, from looking at the freedom you didn't have and now you have it, I guess?
Yes.
How does that work between your life and the script on the page?
Yeah, I think it's very interesting because in China, actually, most of the high school or in middle school, phones are always banned and dating is always banned. We're not really allowed to date until we go to college. And we all wear uniform to school every day. And the teachers are always like super strict and like there's surveillance camera everywhere. And I know like people will think, oh my God, that sounds like a horrible life. But actually it was not as harsh as people will assume. Like even though we have like a really strong sense of structure and discipline, and because the teachers are kind of our enemies, all the students are kind of like we still have little groups of like different friend groups are different. Like I know because in America they're like popular girls, jock, nerds, like we have like that kind of groups, but maybe like more vague because we have like a stronger unified enemy to kind of fight against, and that makes us more united. And because we're wearing the same uniform, right? I think it gave a subconscious way that kind of saying, hey, we are the same, whereas teachers are wearing, different things. So it gave us a sense of like rebellions. And it also gave us like a strong sense of unity because we're all together in this experience of trauma that we have in school.
Solidarity, yeah.
Yeah. So there is actually a lot more, fun and exhilarating little things in our life that I felt like really helped me shape the script. Yeah.
Okay. You mentioned in your writer's statement that both main characters in the script kind of represent a part of you, that you are each character, they all just kind of are a version of you. How does that work, to look at yourself that way and to kind of split yourself into two different characters on the page?
I think it's more like I naturally created a character, and as I go like through different drafts, I'm trying to dive deeper and deeper into the character. And of course, it's always kind of like go introspect and how do I try to understand the perspective. And the deeper that I go, I realize how similar am I and they, even though they are different, like very different character. For example, my lead character, Wendy, she's very earnings and she's very disciplined, and she's I feel like she represents a part of me where I try to be like the perfect student and I try to get straight A's all the time, versus Odette. She is like the kind of like an antagonist to Wendy, and she's very manipulative, which is a little different from me. But the way that I go in is that like, why is she so obsessed with manga, and why does she make the choices she makes? And I realized that it was because the reality that we're living in hurts too much, that she has to hide somewhere and she has to find like a more perfect place for her to live in. So that's kind of how I get into my characters in writing.
Okay, I like it. Interesting. Thank you. Karen, I want to go back to you. I have noticed that you were selected to this very competition in 2024, but this time, 2026, you won best stage category. So congratulations about that first.
Thank you.
Tell me about Living in the Rough. You mentioned in your presentation the overview on the submission platform that it's a story about how to navigate social barriers and trauma and that kind of stuff. Can you elaborate on that?
Sure. So it's kind of parallel stories, right? You have this girl who's 24. She's basically, her reality TV show is called Play Is Play in Del Rey. I put it in how do you say this is embarrassing? I should know. My parents live there. The beach town in LA by LAX.
I don't know the name of it, but I see the map. Yeah.
So anyway, that's where it. Yes, that's the beach house. That's the beach house. But her dad was in a band of like a one-hit wonder band, but then he ran off with a pop star. So she ends up like a teenager in this beach house. Producers are like, "Oh, this is great." They get a hold of her. So she's kind of living, without supervision. And that just takes a turn for the worse. Her name's Guinevere. She ends up like sleeping with her best friend and breaks her boyfriend's heart. So now it's this whole the media, she's the media's villain. So she's kind of dealing with that trauma. But then meanwhile, she has this whole family in Nebraska she's never known about because, what you learn in the flashbacks is they were immersed in their own trauma. And so it is kind of about like, how do you break that cycle when no one is teaching you how to get past it, right? For instance, like the people in Nebraska who were on the mom's side and know that she didn't commit murder, they felt that keeping her safe was saying nothing, like letting her just go off. But the mom ends up having to run off to protect the daughter. Like, see, it's like constantly like happening again and again and again. So when Gwen, the main character, goes back to Nebraska and kind of sees through and battles against all the opposition and everyone coming at her and breaks through all the barriers, social and otherwise, to the truth, finally in the very end, she gets back on social media for, once again to say, to her mom by name, her real name, it's safe to come home now. Okay. But it took, a whole generation and like 30 years to get through that.
There's one thing that always fascinated me about stage plays is the ability of you have characters entering on the right, leaving on the left. You always have this movement on stage, getting in, getting out, people disappearing, surprises, appearances, all that kind of stuff. Did you play with that? Because you don't do it in a feature or any traditional script. On stage, you have that constraint of having one design, one set design, and then play with that. Is it fun? Is it a limitation?
It's so fun. It's an awesome challenge. I typically even write for like a black box theater, just keeping it in perspective of like the play that I had as a nominee in the competition here before. I did get it put up in New York, but in a black box. So which means, right, that it's limited sets, props. And honestly, it's actually better to have less props.
It gets you more creative.
It does. And to let the actors and the words and like I was saying before, the nervous system, like to put all that forward. But it is really fun because I started with novels, then I went to the TV drama pilots, and it does feel like in those instances you can just throw it all out there. So it is a really fun challenge and exercise to have to, really economize like on the page, in the story, in the plot, in the saying, and figure out like, I'm having the flashbacks in mind, right? So how do I do that? And lighting and sound.
Create it for real on stage and make it make sense and make it possible to actually stage. So
Exactly. And then in the next layer of the whole thing are the collaborators, right? Your director. I have a play that up next month that my director got a choreographer. So then, of course, everyone's like, is it a musical? I'm like, no. But I guess now even the element of how you move your body.
Yeah.
Right.
Everything is
Creates
going to
the
be,
story.
it's a different relationship to storytelling, basically,
Yes.
because everything is happening before you for real. It's the whole thing with theater. It's a different ballgame, definitely.
You know, if I could say just one last thing about it, and it's one of my favorite things about theater, I believe the audience loves to see the seams. Like,
Mhm.
right, we do not want that in TV. We do not want that in film unless it's a creative choice and kind of a different way of doing it. But in theater, like for instance, the musical Come From Away and several others you can think of, they're moving a chair around. Now they're in an airplane. Like, but you think they are. And then
Yeah.
they move the chair back and they're at a table. I mean,
You're-
and I think
you're
the audience
complicit.
really goes with you.
As an audience member, you're complicit. You accept the rules of the game in a different way, and it makes you engage immediately in a way that just a flat screen is not going to do the same thing. It could be a whole different discussion.
Yes.
Um, Michelle, I wanted to ask you about going from being a technology professional to a script writer. So you mentioned it a little bit before. Was it for you a vocation, something that you felt attracted to and compelled to do? Was it an opportunity that got you to write scripts? How did you translate?
Here's the short answer. Well, maybe not so short, but anyways, I graduated with an engineering degree in 1989, and there was a horrible recession in engineering at the time. And so my first job was a technical writer. So for the first 7 years of my career, I wrote really boring stuff. But I was good at it. I was very good at it, very, very productive. I did a bunch of other things in technology, but it wasn't until, I would say, my compelling need to write spurred from this sort of confusion, disorientation, rage within myself about what I thought I knew of our society. And I kind of felt like around 2017 or so, the rug started being pulled out. And I didn't know what to do with that feeling. I was just overwhelmed. And I started writing like song lyrics and rewriting old songs with new things because they were so similar to what I was feeling, especially songs from the 60s and things. So I started with that. And then I wrote a novel. And the novel, everyone said, oh, this would make the best movie. And so I went, it would. And I stumbled around trying to write that with absolutely zero guidance. And then finally decided I'd better learn something before I try this. So I bought the Save the Cat book. Somebody told me I should. So I read that, and I couldn't quite picture my novel in that format just yet. I had to kind of learn the process and start afresh. And so as I read the book, I plotted out this screenplay bit by bit by bit. And the end result was a lot of my compelling frustrations poured into this script. And that's where it came from, just reading Save the Cat and trying to do what they told me.
Which brings me to my next question, basically, and you talk about it in your writer's statement, the concern about the place of women in society. And I feel, I mean, I've done a bunch of these roundtable for this competition, this festival. There's always, I think it's always a good place to come from, to use words and writing and poetry and writing novels to address what's happening around us. It's an outlet that personally I need. And then it's an outlet that when it becomes a script, when it becomes a movie, when it becomes a stage play, it's something that's going to put a message out to the readers, the viewers, the audience.
Exactly.
How do I phrase that? Is it satisfactory? Does it bring you satisfaction to write and to push these themes on the page?
Absolutely. Everything that I've written has been therapeutic for me because it's in me and I'm frustrated and I want other people to see what I'm seeing in terms of our backwards societal slide, at least how I view it and how easily we can end up in some of these situations. So therapy, it's mental therapy for me.
How do you leave some space for the readers or the audience to dive into your story?
Well, through strong characters, I think. And I actually have like 4 stories sort of woven together in this one, but they all kind of tie up under the, how do you overcome an iron-fisted regime that wants to control its people through fear. I mean, everybody views it a little bit differently. With Lily, she blossoms and she finds her own power. Her mother gets a chance to make the choice again, because she had the choice to go back and she didn't, and she regretted it. Ben, who's seeking revenge for his wife who was killed during the release. I mean, they all kind of go about it a little bit differently, but they're all struggling with the same sort of thing. So it's, I guess, through the characters and the struggles of those characters to understand their environment and what they can do, personal power.
So basically character-driven storytelling.
Yes. The scene in this is very, very simple. I mean, it'd be really a pretty easy, low-budget movie. I mean, you have woods and you've got some rustic villages. That's it. I mean,
it's good. It's good to think about that. Jasmine, back to you. You mentioned that you did some storyboard work for Nickelodeon Productions.
I did.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, I was a storyboard artist, and I still am. So I really love. I don't know. Some of my favorite directors have always been multi-hyphenates. Like, I think of Guillermo del Toro and Jordan Peele. Like, Jordan Peele started in puppetry and Guillermo was a stop motion artist. And I think when we open ourselves up to all realms of storytelling and, I don't know, see what wants to be made, a lot of exciting things can happen. But in general, for storyboarding, I really I think I'm very much a visual person. A lot of my scripts, I just see images and I just have to write it. When I'm writing scripts in general, I find that I always have like a piece of paper near me and I'm just like storyboarding like bits and pieces while I go. So there's like this weird back and forth that's happening. So a lot of my scripts are being informed by a lot of the things that I just also naturally do and have learned to do. I think you can also see the fingerprints of my cartoon history in my script. So yeah, this pilot in specific, it's a half-hour comedy. So there are like these fantastical moments that are happening in nursing home that just also add to the humor of it. Like there's like a WWE style like cage fight with grannies. So there's these little bits and moments that I'm just like, oh, you can tell that's like my animation fingerprint. That's just like really wanting to ham it up a little bit, like put a hat on a hat and like try and play with the humor of it all.
I've seen on your overview of your submission profile that you actually studied script writing. That doesn't happen a lot. I've done, again, a few of these, and usually we are kind of self-taught. We just went into it. We started writing novels, poetry, whatever, and then we learned the craft and we download the apps and all of that. You studied script writing. What do they teach you and how does that work?
Yeah, I specifically went to UCLA Extension. So I took classes, for like a certificate, and I'm still in the process of it. But in general, it's really trying to, what I love most is that they really drill the idea of like understanding structures of just like how for what you need for a half hour versus an hour long, script, or like what you need for a feature versus anything else. So I think that was what really helped click a lot of ideas for me and like made the entire process of script writing, like it demystified it because it's such a daunting task. So having to have like this sort of structure helped a lot, and also putting my experiences into it as well. And like what I've seen, that there's a lot of things in animation too that I've seen where people broke a lot of rules, just to like, oh, I wanted this gag to work. So it's like I decided to have a little moment where
once you know the rules, you can break them and fall back on your feet. That's kind of the game. Okay, Carrie, back to you. You mentioned at the very beginning of this discussion that script writing was a hobby to you. but you didn't mention that you're a veteran. What drew you into script writing? Did you need the outlet? Was it just for fun at first? How did you go from being a soldier to become a script writer, even if it's just on the side?
Well, I tell you what, the script writing came well before I was a soldier. So I was I enlisted later in life, but I started a script writing journey. I think maybe I was probably not too much out of high school after I moved to California. And I took a script writing. Well, no, wait a minute. It was a film appreciation class. And I took the film appreciation class with two of my friends. And I liked film. I was really coming from a different creative field. I was playing music, guitar. I was dabbling into poetry. So just having this whole open, creative, just openness, basically exploration, I guess I'd say. And then I took a class at LACC, and it was a film appreciation class. And I fell into screenwriting from there. I was like, okay, well, maybe I know how to write poetry. Maybe I can kind of figure out how to write a script. Brought a couple of books, like Sid Field stuff, brought a couple of screenplays for reference, and just kind of started following it. I had a concept and I wrote the story, and I didn't really, at that time, I really didn't know about structure yet. I just was kind of writing through a basic concept. First screenplay, oddly enough, I did end up selling that screenplay to, it was like a private producer, maybe like a year or two after it was done. So I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe I'm on to something here. And I never stopped. All through my life, I've been writing. I've been doing like directing short projects, my writing work. Yeah.
So script came first, and you're also a filmmaker. I read in your profile, maybe in a writer's statement, that you're looking to elevate voices overlooked by society. So it kind of matches with what Michelle was talking about. It feels like it's a common denominator with a lot of people and a lot of us today trying to, through art in general, to express and meet some of the needs that we all have in this current society. How does that help you, and how does that help others to engage with writing and art in general?
I'm not a
It's a big question.
Yeah, let me think of that. It helps me because it helps me tap into, some maybe the personal things that I feel.
Absolutely.
Immediately just living, there's so many things that's going on around us. I may not necessarily stand in the street and protest or something, or maybe I would, but this is my most immediate way to kind of say how I feel kind of through the art, and maybe provide a lens for people who may not necessarily, understand the character, and what the character is going through. So it's about the experience. It's like, okay, well, let's take a walk in this character's shoes. Let's see what this character is going through. You know what I mean? And that's kind of like my catch net. Just bring him in through that, just like a character.
Yeah. So there's a common thing between all of us. It's like we are really, and you guys are using the craft of script writing to put out some messages, help educate people, or like you just phrased it, just put a lens on something, put a spotlight on something.
So that the direction of the picture is in the script. Everything is in the script.